Dictation will start in 5 seconds. Start. This court, having heard learned counsel for both parties at considerable length and upon careful examination of the pleadings, evidence, and documents placed on record, proceeds to adjudicate the present dispute arising out of an alleged breach of contractual obligations between the claimant and the respondent, who had entered into a valid and enforceable agreement governed by mutually accepted terms and conditions duly executed with free consent and lawful consideration. Stop. The claimant contends that the respondent failed to perform essential obligations within the stipulated period, thereby causing substantial financial loss, reputational damage, and operational disruption, all of which were reasonably foreseeable at the time of entering into the contract. Stop. It is further submitted that repeated notices were issued calling upon the respondent to cure the default. However, no satisfactory compliance was forthcoming despite reasonable opportunities granted in good faith by the claimant to ensure performance and avoid escalation of the dispute. Stop. Per contra, the respondent argues that performance was rendered impossible due to unforeseen circumstances beyond reasonable control, invoking the doctrine of frustration and seeking exemption from strict compliance. Stop. It is asserted that such supervening events fundamentally altered the nature of contractual obligations, thereby discharging the respondent from liability. Stop. The respondent further submits that efforts were made to communicate such difficulties. However, such communications were neither timely nor sufficiently substantiated. Stop. Upon consideration, this court observes that the burden of proving impossibility squarely rests upon the party invoking such defense. Stop. Mere inconvenience, hardship, or increased cost does not constitute legal impossibility sufficient to frustrate a contract. Stop. The material on record does not establish that performance became objectively impossible. Rather, it indicates a failure to take timely and reasonable steps to mitigate foreseeable risks and to adopt alternative measures that could have ensured partial or substantial compliance. Stop. Furthermore, the agreement explicitly substantiating the extent of financial loss suffered, including transactional records, correspondence, and independent verification, supporting the claims presented. Stop. Accordingly, this court fit that the claimant is entitled to recover damages proportionate to the proven loss together with reasonable interest calculated at prevailing commercial rates. Stop. However, the claimant is also under a duty to mitigate damages, and any failure in this regard shall proportionately reduce the quantum of compensation awarded, ensuring that recovery remains fair, balanced, and consistent with established legal principles governing compensation. Stop. In view of the foregoing analysis, the respondent is hereby directed to compensate the claimant for the quantified losses within a period of 60 days from the date of his judgment. Stop. In the event of non-compliance, the claimant shall be at liberty to initiate appropriate execution proceedings in accordance with law, including attachment and recovery measures as deemed necessary, along with any further relief that may be granted by the executing court. Stop. This judgment is rendered after a holistic appreciation of the facts, applicable legal principles, and binding precedents, ensuring consistency, fairness, and adherence to the rule of law. Stop. The parties are advised to comply with the directions herein to avoid further litigation and associated costs. The decree is accordingly passed. Stop.